Hi, my name is Sherry Mohazab. I am a teacher in Playa Vista, California, which is a part of Los Angeles close by to the beach. I teach second grade, and we are a STEM school.
I currently teach in the Verona Area School District, which is a suburban school district located right outside of the state capital of Madison, Wisconsin. This year, I am teaching 6th through 8th grade informational technology, and I am teaching it virtually. In the past, I was an educational technology coach for kindergarten through 5th grade and focused on STEM and design thinking integration.
Hi there, my name is Christopher Birdman. I am a STEM specialist at the Tynan Elementary School in South Boston, Massachusetts, part of the Boston Public School District.
Hello everyone, I am Bonnie Kirkley and I'm located in South Georgia, and I am a Maker's Empire teacher at an elementary school. Currently, I am a gifted instructed teacher. I also am our STEAM support specialist at our facility.
I would call it a STEM teacher's best friend. It's a CAD program that is accessible for students grades K through 6. It's intuitive, it is simplistic, but yet robust. I would really encourage teachers to use it in a variety of ways, not as its own curriculum, but as a tool for teaching all the curriculum that you would need to teach throughout the course of a year.
It is a software that does not need a 3D printer. It is a software that opens up so many opportunities for my learners to create. If I have a designer who thinks in blocks, Blocker is right up their alley. They play Minecraft. All of a sudden, here they can come into the classroom and they can see where they're designing outside of the classroom makes sense inside the classroom. Shaper is also something that I love because I have so many students that love to think and design in shapes. Unfortunately, prior to this, we used Tinkercad, and I had so many students who were so intimidated by the software. Versus Maker's Empire, you can go in and you can do the training lab and you can learn all of these different pieces, and then it just continuously gets better.
I believe that Maker's Empire is a complete curriculum for students and teachers that leaves no stone unturned in an area that teachers often turn their backs on because they're like, I don't have that kind of background knowledge. I can't do that. I didn't go to school for that. You don't have to go to school for 3D printing at all. It just takes a little bit of experience. And Maker's Empire is the platform and software that you need to get that experience in an easy way with students. And you know what? Even if you don't teach yourself how to create 3D prints, it will teach your students. You just have to be the guide.
It is a program that you can use to design 3D objects that you will then be able to print on a 3D printer. It is a program that has a wonderful user interface with many lesson plans, and a large community of users. And you can connect with other users, and it's fabulous.
Teachers these days have so much curriculum they need to fit into 1 year. I'm really fortunate that I'm a dedicated STEM teacher, but I only see the kids for a very short amount of time each week. So Maker's Empire really is not used as a separate entity, but I try to incorporate it into all the curriculum topics we use and we study. It's not its own curriculum. It's embedded within the curriculum of all of the topics that I teach. I teach design process. We use Maker's Empire. If I'm teaching parts of a flower, let's say, we use Maker's Empire. We design flowers. We label them. We print them out. We print out the parts. If we're doing some sort of space exploration, again, we use Maker's Empire. We do a design challenge to get to space. How can you live on another planet? What would it look like? What would it feel like? Design Maker's Empire is not its own curriculum, although it certainly can stand alone. But the beauty of it is that it can be embedded into all the other topics that we study.
So I was extremely fortunate because I was a technology coach. So I was able to connect with different classrooms and say, hey, let's explore these different tools, and then let's look at your curriculum. And after you've seen different tools, then let's talk about your curriculum, and let's see, should we focus with a specific tool, or should we focus with a specific direction? And so Maker's Empire was always one of the first tools that I used in the design thinking process, because it has so many different ways to integrate into storytelling, into science, into social studies, into things that I never actually dreamed of.
So how do we fit one more thing into our already crowded day? I do a lesson where I completely introduce Maker's Empire in first grade with students, and a recap in second and third. But shortly after, I don't have to do any more instruction with my older students. Now, I know this may not be your setup, but I recommend doing taking one day and doing a great tutorial and showing them how to get along on the website and use the platform. And then after that, this is what I do. I give my students explore time, where they have set activities that they can choose from, and Maker's Empire is one of those activities. I always include the task that I want them to complete on Maker's Empire, though.
If you try to get it in as an add-on, then you'll never find the time to do it. But if you find the time to add it into your curriculum, to connect it, then you will find the time. For example, we read the stories. I have them make the characters. And what we do is we have must-dos and may-dos, so they have a certain number of things that they have to do, and then they have some may-dos, and sometimes I even give them time to work on those may-dos, and one of them would be designing the character. The other one was the mazes, which was connected to math, or the chocolate molds, which were connected to our life science unit. So make sure you connect it, otherwise it'll just be some extra thing that you'll never get around to.
We've done quite a few projects. Our most successful project is our holiday ornament project. Students design ornaments for whatever holiday they celebrate. We go through the design process, we prototype, and then we print. Students really love the idea that whatever they design, they get to take home with them. Every student in my school gets to walk out before the holiday break with some sort of ornament in hand. Some kids have requested that we print 3 or 4 or 5 of the ornament, and they gift them to their families. This has by far been the most exciting and well-received project that we do year to year. Other great projects that we've done are jack-o'-lanterns. We make hollowed out jack-o'-lanterns, and we put a little LED light in them. Kids get to take those home for the holidays. Another great project that has been well received is the Mother's Day or Father's Day's cards. This is not a 3D printed project, but rather a 2D printed project where students use the software as a pixel art program. They make a card and we print them out on a color printer, and we put them into a frame. Kids get to bring those home and give them to their parents. Working in a system where oftentimes students, you have to use resources to buy gifts or to make gifts. Maker's Empire has really been a great tool where students can make things for their parents and others.
My favorite projects have been the Global Design Challenge. So I had the opportunity to connect with another classroom in Australia. And we have gone through 3 or 4 iterations with different students using Flipgrid to connect our students. So it was with the design process in place. But my favorite project was the one that we did where it was around food trucks. And so students designed their own food trucks, but in the process, they were teaching about food from our culture and learning about food that's in Australia. And so there was a lot of exchange using Flipgrid and using designs that students had designed on Maker's Empire, and then they would upload it. Another one of my favorite projects actually happened right before our school closed down for virtual instruction. And that was, we were looking at our history and learning about being a colony and the 13 colonies. And we were connected with a classroom in Australia. And we were sharing back and forth, and students were designing in Maker's Empire about the colony that they were learning about, and then sharing it through Flipgrid with their design. And then we moved from previous events to current events, and that's when students started to be able to communicate about what was actually happening in our country and throughout the world with coronavirus. And it's amazing how a software allows you to connect across cultures and across ideas and share. Those are my favorite projects because it makes my students understand that the design thinking process and global collaboration is really possible, even when they're in 5th grade or even when they're in 4th grade. Like that there is really that openness that is connected in the community that's there around Maker's Empire.
My hands down favorite lesson is when I introduced Maker's Empire to 1st grade students. And for some reason, my smaller students just mold and take it up like a sponge and understand it a lot easier when you're introducing it. Sometimes to our older students are sort of set in their ways. So every year I have an analogy game that we learn about. So I'm using it in English language arts and analogies. It is a board game, and it's centered around animals and what we call animal groups. So I'm also using science. We don't have game pieces, and we need game pieces. So we use the engineering design process. Design thinking works just as fine. And we decide that we are going to design animal-themed game pieces so that we can play this game. My students get to think about their favorite animals. They also get to think about how to create a game piece that would stand up on a game board and include concepts and characteristics of their animal, and they just do a great job. One of my most favorite ones was called Foxy, and it was sort of a box bottom with a fox head, and a 1st grader designed that.